Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Economic Development Committee meeting for Tuesday, September 27th, 2022 at 6 p.m. Ms. Patrick, would you please call roll?
Sure. Chair Ottenberg,
Here.
Councilmember Brost,
Here.
Councilmember Bartoni,
Here.
Councilmember Dodwell,
Here.
Councilmember Garitano, Councilmember Hopper, Councilmember Jaxie,
Here.
Councilmember McCutcheon.
Here.
Thank you. First order of business will be approval of the minutes from our August 23rd meeting. Does anybody have any questions or comments? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the minute. Councilmember Garitano, seconded by Councilmember Dodwell. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries, minutes approved. Next, we come to the section of public comment. I don't see anyone here in the chambers. Travis, do we have anybody online? Thank you. Next, we come to discussion items. One thing I wanted to mention, I noticed that we have a majority of the committee members dialing in remotely. We did have a couple of our committee meetings that were hybrid so that people could attend in person. Is there a preference? I'm just doing an informal poll here that going forward, we just do these by way of Zoom. If so, we would obviously save on city resources in the time of some city personnel. Or is there a preference for us to continue with hybrid meetings? I see a hand up from Councilmember Hopper.
Yeah, thanks. I think that I honestly just think it makes sense for these types of meetings just to have them on Zoom, just based on the facilities that we have available. As you said, I'm concerned with city employees, but I think sometimes where we have to sit in the council chambers being kind of in a semicircle, we're almost all staring off to nothing and not at each other. I think it sometimes hurts a little bit of the collaboration. I think this just works as well from a logistics standpoint, my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember McCutcheon, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, I took my hand down. I'm in Zoom today because I didn't think anybody would want my germs sitting next to them. My preference is though in person, but I'm fine with Zoom as well.
Okay. So I guess city administrator, there's Councilmember Garitano.
Yeah, I'll just express my thoughts here. Can you hear me, by the way? Oh, let me switch my. All right, I think this is better now. All right, that microphone was not working. I'll just, as far as the opinion, I'm a big believer that we are here to serve the people. And even though, yes, there are no people in here, there will be times when that does occur. And I've heard a tremendous number of complaints from our residents when it comes to the Planning and Zoning Commission not meeting in person. So I say if we're good enough to go out to eat in restaurants and socialize with people, we should still be able to meet in person. But I do want to say the flexibility of the hybrid is a good thing. So I would continue to offer that for anyone who wishes to come in person.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion on this topic? Unless there is a strong feeling, we will continue with the hybrid meetings. And I guess that's it. City Administrator Cross.
I would just offer that as we said when we came out of COVID, I left it up to each of the chairs to decide what they wanted to do with their committees. And as Mr. Garitano just pointed out, there are some committees where it makes absolute sense perhaps to meet in person, just by the nature of what is discussed at that committee. It's not a one size fits all. Every committee can choose what they want to do. So you've had a couple comments, both for and against. It would be my suggestion, Chair, that you might want to see a show of hands to see what people want. Rather they want a Zoom or a hybrid. I think that's the democratic way of doing it, is just take a poll and it looks like you've got a full committee here of all 8 members. So you might want to take a straw poll of what they want.
Okay, so that's a great suggestion. So let's just go ahead and have a show of hands of how many people would like to continue with the hybrid meetings. Okay, it looks like 7. So we will continue with the hybrid meetings. And I think it's probably particularly important because I think at the next meeting, or it's the October, I believe it's 24th meeting, if I'm not mistaken, we will have a discussion of our budget for next year. So that's a meeting we may want to have in person, definitely. Or a hybrid meeting, I should say. Councilmember Dodwell.
I would just like to also, as we look at budget, see if we can't get the smaller community room set up with the components necessary to have a face-to-face meeting with smaller groups like this. I think that causes some difficulty in hearing and seeing people when we're this spread out and there's only a few of us. So I'd just like to see that go on to the 2023 budget so that we get that room set up as well.
City Administrator.
Thank you, Chair. Councilmember Dodwell, Mr. Travis and I met with Tech Electronics some 2 months ago, a little bit longer. And we reviewed all aspects of bringing the community room up to the same technological specs as we have here in Chambers. And we also reviewed additional things that we want to do here in Chambers. With regards to the community room, we were told by the gentleman at the time was that that was the easier of the two to get done, and we would have a quote within about 2 weeks or so, and perhaps get it done in about 3 to 4. You may recall that I actually put that in one of my weekly reports. We sit now beyond 2 months. The last email I sent to that gentleman was yesterday, Friday, and said, "Where are you?" We are waiting for a quote from this gentleman to get that room done. So we've been on it now for 2.5 months. So my expectation would be that it would get done yet this year.
Thank you. Yes.
Having been a client of Tech Electronics multiple times over the last 20 years, I might recommend some other vendors if you're not getting a response from them to get the work completed. I know we've been through a lot of vendors for our communications components here in City Hall. So we may want to take a look at some alternatives if that's their response time to the city at this point. Obviously, they feel they have bigger fish to fry and don't understand customer service at all. So just my perspective.
It's a very good perspective. And Travis and I have talked about that. They run hot and cold. There's sometimes that they have been very responsive on certain things. This one with this particular person who we've not worked with in the past, for whatever reason, seems to be taking much longer than we would expect. But we are always, if we don't get the service that we believe that we deserve here in Wildwood, I have no problem changing vendors with anybody. So we'll keep pushing them. But my expectation would be, and the reason why we went with Tech Electronics, because they're the ones that put all this in. They have the knowledge and so forth. So logically, we would go to them, and I'm all about relationships. I'll, scratch their back, they scratch ours. We'll support one another. But when it's a one-sided deal, then, it's a different story. So I'll continue to reach out to this gentleman. I think it's probably to the point now where I need to go around him and go to his boss.
I was just going to recommend that you go to the owner of the company and then you will get the service that you need.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we move on to information items, update on business changes and other business news. So with that, I will turn things over to Mr. Lee for his update.
Thank you, Chair. We have a couple cool things going on here in the city of Wildwood, a couple businesses opening up in the next couple weeks. Just wanted to give a couple updates on the openings. Fox Company Yoga located at 16745 Main Street. They're currently taking construction bids. The owner did mention that the construction bids were a little bit pricier than anticipated, and that the individuals were saying that the targeted start date was going to be a little bit later than expected. They originally believed that they were going to be opening in November of 2022, but it doesn't seem like they're going to be able to do that at this point. I'm keeping in touch with them, and I will update the committee as I learn more information. As for Silver Spoon Ice Cream and Sweets, located at 17225 New College Ave. They officially opened on September 16th, 2022. It seems like they're doing pretty well. We actually had our ribbon cutting ceremony with them last Friday, and we had a really good turnout. I do thank all the council members that did participate and come out to that event. I think it really did show a sign of support for him, his family, and his business. And I think he has that same trust with us in the city. So we're looking forward to maintaining and building upon that relationship. Tresses for Jess Salon, located at 16451 Village Plaza View Drive. They're actually going to be opening on October 1st, 2022. That's the targeted opening date at this point. Just a couple of little things they're doing on the inside, but they should be operating on October on the last day of September. I will be Elegant Designs Day Spa, located at 16576 Manchester Road. They have a little bit of a window here. It's not necessarily a hardline date when they're looking to open, but they said sometime within the next 3 weeks, they'd like to have their doors open. They're targeting around October 10th, 2022, but there could be some things that come up that might push it back a little bit, but I'll keep you guys updated as I hear more. Lastly, on the other openings, Fantastic Cakes and Where to Buy Them, located at 16962 Manchester Road, the former old Imogene's building. They'll be opening on October 1st, 2022, and that is confirmed. They will also be having that same day, it's a Saturday, at 10 a.m. They will be having their ribbon cutting ceremony with the West St. Louis Chamber of Commerce. They're inviting everyone to come, as obviously, and then on top of that, they'd love to see any city officials that would like to join them in that celebration. So we're looking forward to that this upcoming Saturday. So when we moving on to business closures, happy to announce that there are actually no new business closures since we met last in August. So that's good news, but I did want to just kind of go over a couple of things that I mentioned in the last meeting, just to kind of keep them on our radar. Architect Now, located at 16759 Main Street, Suite 200. They are still looking to sublease their space through Newmark Zimmer. They have been looking to do that for a couple months now. And from business visitations that I've went to, I've noticed that the individuals that were there, they're not there on a daily basis. The owner actually told me that they have moved from COVID to a stay-at-home status, so they all are working from home. So the facility is just looking to be rented out, and hopefully we can find a suitor for them soon. The Intellica can, and with the help of Newmark Zimmer. Same goes with Wildwood Workspaces, located at 16759 Main Street, Suite 205. They are looking to sublease their space as well through Newmark Zimmer. They had said that they just were not receiving the amount of interest, and they did open, I believe, sometime during the COVID period or right through it. So I think that did hurt it quite a bit. The potential of having those individuals going in, just maybe renting out one office or two. But we'll keep on in touch with them to make sure that, they're moving along, and Newmark Zimmer's doing their job trying to find someone to take over that space, but we'll keep you updated. On top of that, lastly, on the business closures piece, Clinical Biosafety Services located at 16759 Main Street, Suite 208. They're moving their company to Chesterfield, and that space will actually be considered vacant on November 1st, 2022. I did want to point out just a small piece here that of these items that I brought up under the business closure piece, all of these are within the building right here on Main Street. It doesn't have a particular name, but I just wanted to bring up that space specifically has quite a few vacancies. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention and yeah, of course. Councilmember McCutcheon, Dodwell, sorry.
I just wanted to ask if that's the same building that the PNC Bank used to be in?
That is not, that
Okay.
it's the building with the Milk and Honey and the Edwards
okay,
Jones
so-
and Code Ninjas.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah,
Um,
with the retail below and the office space above, so,
That is correct.
okay.
So the office space is above, and then they have that retail, and they currently have 2 retail vacancies. Fox Company Yoga is coming in, so the retail side was they did take one of those out, but we still have 2 vacancies on the retail side, and it's looking like they have one already vacant. I think it's Suite 215, but that's 1, 2, 3. We have quite a few. I mean, it's about 4 on the top side. So the office space up there is going to be heavily underused after these individuals are able to lease out. But so yeah, we'll keep a close eye on that, and I'll keep you informed. And I like that you brought up the PNC Bank building that has Source HOV located in as well. Source HOV, just to give you an update on that, they were bought out by Exela Technologies, and at this point, the owner has a pretty lax commitment. Obviously, personnel can go in and work when needed, but most of the time they are working from home. The IT guy is there on site on a daily basis, but when it comes to that building particularly, there really isn't any people going to it on a daily basis because we do have that PNC vacancy, the former PNC. So just wanted to bring that up as well. It just kind of seems like it's kind of, a lot of the, vacancies are being concentrated within our town center. So just bringing it to your attention. Also, I did want to mention that the Clinical Biosafety Services, they are moving to Chesterfield. It's not anything to do with the city. They were very happy. I actually spoke with the owner. They were very happy with the city of Wildwood, everything we provided them. But they did mention that they just needed more space. They were growing at a good pace. And, that's a good thing for business. Never too upset to hear that. But unfortunately, they just couldn't find the right space for the right price at the square footage they were looking for. So obviously, we wish them the best. And, hopefully, we can eventually maybe get them back someday. But it was nothing to do with the city. Just wanted to make sure that you all knew that. And then, on to business news. Here's where we can get some more exciting information. If I've already mentioned the successful Silver Spoon ice cream and sweets, ribbon cutting that happened last Friday. So won't cover that too much. And then I also mentioned the fantastic cakes and where to buy them. That'll be October 1st, 2022 at 10 a.m. I did want to mention, since this is tomorrow, the exercise coach at 101 Plaza Drive, Suite 101. They have they're having their ribbon cutting tomorrow at 11:30. And this is one of the ribbon cutting ceremonies that the city will be hosting. So would love to see any support out there from elected officials. It'd be great to have anyone that could come. Jessica and Don Eisenberg, they are great individuals. They're very excited to be working in the city of Wildwood, and they've just shown us nothing but love. And I would love to return the favor. Next, we have Network Technology Partners located at 16442 Village Plaza View Drive. They had submitted a variance for their sign. And this was brought up to me by the owner's son at Celebrate Wildwood. This was a little bit of additional information I got after I had posted this, but he had mentioned a pretty good reasoning for why they need the variance is because the NTP is what their logo is, Network Technology Partners. And if they go by the size restraints that we ask for that specific site, it would look very thin and small. So the fact that it is such a tiny logo, it doesn't have much length to it. They want to compensate that with the more of the girth, so they want to stretch it out a bit. So I'll keep you informed with that. But the planning department is working with them to hopefully get that resolved as soon as possible.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
and Committee,
Mr.
that was brought before the Board of Adjustment for that particular item and it was not approved.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Also, Access Worldwide Supply Chain and Logistics. I had mentioned this in our last meeting, but I just wanted to, put it back out there just so we know. They are located at 2638 Highway 109. They had been thinking of moving their space to the upstairs realm of that building, and they are now having an individual that is leaving, and I now have a confirmed date that they will be looking to leave that space, Suite 100, by the end of October. So they'll be looking to lease out that space. We've put it on our website to make sure it's available, and obviously we'll see where that goes from there. Now we'll get to the more fun stuff, the events that are coming up with our businesses out here in Wildwood. Hidden Valley at 17409 Hidden Valley Drive. They're having their Fall Fest and Ski Swap on Saturday, October 15th, 2022 from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. It'll be taking place on their property, and they're going to be providing, good events for the kids and, giving out their passes that people have pre-ordered, things along those lines. So that's looking to be a great event, and super excited that their new general manager has really been in touch with us quite a bit to just keep us in the loop and also keep us excited for all these new events that are coming up. St. Louis Community College in Wildwood located at 2645 Generations Drive is having their Halloween themed Howlin' Prowl event on Friday, October 21st, 2022 from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. We'll be giving you a nice reminder about that in our next month's meeting, but just wanted to lay out the groundwork there so we can, just have an understanding that it's there. Obviously, they're a large stakeholder in the community, so we just want to show them as much support as possible. And then lastly, the Wildwood Business Association, they are partnering with Living Word at 17315 to throw a trunk or treat on Sunday, October 30th, 2022 from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And businesses within the Wildwood Business Association and outside of it can contact Jenny Goski and pay a $25 fee to have a booth there. So having some availability and having some more events with the WBA. But that's all we have for the business news and updates. Thank you. Let me know if you have any questions.
Councilmember
Yes.
Dodwell.
Did the St. Louis Community College let you know they're having kind of a community engagement meeting sometime
Yes.
later this week? Okay, did we get that posted up on our website for them or?
At this time, I have not posted that on our website. I will go ahead and do that right after this meeting. I believe it is on October 5th.
Yes.
As I have
Next
the
week
information.
sometime.
Yeah, I have it written
Mhm.
down in my meeting notes, but I will go ahead and post that, on the economic development page. But yes, that's going to be a very, very nice meeting for anyone that's interested
Mhm.
in having some input on that building they're putting together.
Mhm.
They are in the preliminary stages of this, and it's going to be important to get as much input as possible. So I encourage anybody that any resident of Wildwood to come in and, let them know their thoughts.
Could
Thank
you also have that put in the e-newsletter for this upcoming week?
Yes.
To let residents know about it.
Yes, I can. I will do that right after this, and we'll make sure to let all our residents know through e-newsletter. And I'll also do a post or two on social media just to make sure that message gets out. Thanks.
Councilmember Garitano.
Thank you. Just based on the update that we heard, I think it might be helpful for us to look at a future discussion and try to see what we could do about these businesses that choose to come to Wildwood and then, are trying to find a way to either, put a sign up and, as was just noted in this particular case, they were denied by the Board of Adjustment. I heard similar complaints from
Mhm.
Lucky Dog Central.
Mhm.
They went through the Board of Adjustment, were denied. Now, I'm not picking Board of Adjustment. I'm just saying that, we as a council preach one thing, that we want to help our businesses,
Mhm.
but then we're shooting ourselves in the foot because these folks keep getting denied. So it's a question, I think it's
Mhm.
worth the discussion. Mr. Lee probably has some insight. I think he wears two hats in a way because you're a representative of the city and economic development. But anyway, I think that we keep hearing this from businesses we hear it in the feedback,
Mhm,
and I'm sure we will hear it in the upcoming survey.
mhm.
And so, if we are serious as a city that we want to improve economic development, I think we need to look and see if there's something that needs to be revisited
Mhm.
in some of this code. This, just a thought or suggestion for future discussion.
Thank you. City Administrator Cross.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Um, If I'm trying to choose my words here carefully. We have code. We follow the code. We have sign code, we have lighting code, we have zoning. An item, be it a sign variance or whatever, comes before the Board of Adjustment for one reason only. That's because they are not in compliance with city code. So at that point in time, the city provides them with an avenue to have another group of individuals review that from certain aspects. And at the last Board of Adjustment meeting, there was a closed session that where there was a training session in terms of what their roles were with the folks that serve on the Board of Adjustment. There was also officer elections, new officers that from the chair to the vice chair to the secretary. So if a variance is being denied, it's being denied for a reason, and that is it's in violation of code. And one thing that we have preached is follow the code, because we don't get into trouble. If there's some consideration to change something, then it would be up to the council to change our sign ordinances, as opposed to something else. Yes, we all understand that we want to bring business to Wildwood, but the folks that sit on the Board of Adjustment have a very specific set of criteria that they look at in terms of deciding if they're going to grant a variance or not. So in the case of this particular sign, it didn't meet those issues. So I would respectfully suggest that that's an area that this committee doesn't get involved in. Quite honestly, that this belongs at the Planning and Zoning Department, as well as the Commission and the BOA. That's not something that we really should be treading into.
Maybe just a quick follow-up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's a valid point. It's just that even here in this very council, when we have our council meetings, we have overturned decisions made by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And it was in this very council meeting that we've even said that we have a bad reputation when it comes to businesses and developers, and that we need to change it. And, that was a couple meetings back. And so, it's either we're going to have to stick with it and have to accept it, that we just have these certain ordinances that are written for a specific reason, or the business community needs a better explanation or understanding so that they're not continuously coming forward then proposing some kind of variance that is going to be automatically denied, right? Because that's what I keep hearing, that the variances or the code is too strict and therefore they go for the variances and they get denied. And so, it's tough. It puts us in a very difficult spot here. But that's what also then comes back when we hear feedback from the business community. And so, we can continue down this path or we can try to see what is possible. And again, that's the only reason I brought it up, is I think it might be something good for a future discussion. For maybe something related to code, absolutely, yes, it's outside of our area, and that would be a planning and zoning. But I've mentioned this as feedback, and then I'll give back my time. It's that I think the council has a really good consensus as to the way we feel and the way we think, because we hear from the residents, we are held accountable by the residents. But I don't know if that alignment carries across through all the other boards and commissions. And so, that's my thinking there.
Thank you. Councilmember Dodwell.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to ask the question, do the businesses receive detailed information regarding the requirements and the code for specific signage when they get ready to start their business and or approach the city? I just don't know the answer to that question. Perhaps if we gave a more user-friendly with a few examples, similar to what we did with the vehicle minimization or the vehicle codes that we have, we kind of put together a little handout for businesses so that they could understand this is what we consider this kind of vehicle versus that kind of vehicle in a pictograph form. Maybe they could come with better planned ideas, not in all cases, but I'm just trying to see how we can ease the process for business owners that have obviously 100 different things on their mind that they have to get completed. So I concur with the city administrator that we have our ordinances for a reason. And I think we should comply with those. But if you have an individual that comes in and doesn't understand those or doesn't have a good way to find that information quickly and effectively, I just want to make sure that we are not just saying you've been denied and we're some godlike creature that says, we don't care what you do, you cannot have that kind of a sign, without any background information on what does work and what they can do to make an adjustment. If they take that sign and put the words, instead of across this way, this, and this, is that something that the Board of Adjustment could have perhaps mentioned to them, that their sign could be longer or taller? Or I don't want to second guess what the rules or regulations are. I'm just trying to figure out a way that we can be a friendly business community and not a dictatorial one.
City Administrator Cross.
Thank you, Councilmember Dodwell. All good points, but let me assure you that everything that you just mentioned is in fact discussed with someone.
Okay.
In the case of signage, they are given very specific verbiage and graphics in terms of
Perfect.
the height of the letters, the length, the ratio between the two. So
Okay.
they know eyes
They
wide
know what
open
they-
going in, what the sign requirements are.
Okay.
We have had some businesses that have ignored it and put up signage
Mhm.
already. And in some cases, we've asked them to take it down.
Mhm.
But when the Board of Adjustment almost goes overboard in some cases, asking all of those kinds of questions.
Okay, perfect.
And in terms of, could you do this? Could you do this? And so forth. Sometimes, I mean, again, the language when someone comes before the Board of Adjustment and they are asked, the petitioner, can you please state the reason for the hardship or whatever, what is it causing, and so forth. If they can state some specific hard and fast, information, the board will take that under consideration. But a lot of times it's just emotional. It's a feel, well, traffic can't see me here, or something like that. What I can tell you is that the Board of Adjustment has said yes more times than they have said no. In some cases, they've said yes when they probably should have said no. So personally, and I sit in on all these meetings, that group of individuals does a very good job of trying to find a way to grant a variance. So they do all of that. And again, the business owner, in terms of signage, knows at the very beginning exactly what is required. They might misinterpret whether it's two signs with words above and words below and those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, that's explained to them, and we look for ways. And then at the end of the other day, then a vote is taken. And to grant a variance, I think it takes 4 out of 5 or something like that to do it. So they go to great lengths to try to help the business community if they can.
Thank you. Councilmember Bartoni.
Thank you. So kind of going in the direction that Joe Garitano was going, and the Board of Adjustments may have made the right decision. I mean, I don't know, maybe the guy was wanting a 200 square foot flashing neon sign. Well, then they made the right decision. But my question would be, a lot of times the council itself has exercised our to review other committees and boards' decision. The fact that they, Board of Adjustments, rejected this petition, does that come to council? Like, Steve, do you know, or does anybody know if that comes to council? Will we see that that was rejected?
Councilmember Bartoni, I don't believe that it goes beyond that. I think once the decision is made at the board level, that's the end of that discussion.
Okay, and kind of going back to what Joe was saying before is, I don't disagree that the council probably agrees that we, could help businesses more, but when these decisions are made at the commission, committee, and board levels, they call Joe Garitano and complain. They call Don Bartoni. They call us because we're the elected officials. We're not appointed. So, and I'm not saying that they, like I said, I'm not saying that they should make decisions based on what's best for us and make decisions on what's make different decisions than they're making. I'm just like, maybe it is an opportunity for us to look at and be able to review their decisions and possibly help some of these businesses out in the future.
Councilmember Garitano.
Steve Cross answered that question already about Board of Adjustment. Their decision is final. The council doesn't review it. The only action a petitioner has is they would be able to go and appeal that decision with St. Louis County. So the Board of Adjustment, in fact, is probably the only one that goes beyond the council here with their final decision.
And you're right. I failed to mention that they're a quasi judicial board. And yes, and I'm thank you for reminding me. Their only avenue for appeal is to, I think, the circuit court, actually.
Okay. Mr. Lee.
I was just thinking that we, as a city and the city staff, we could potentially, this could help, maybe give people better realistic expectations. I know we were just talking about educating the actual business owners themselves, but potentially what we can do as a city is really educate the brokers that are filling in these spots. So when they are advertising it and when they're walking people through, saying, hey, this is where your hair salon is going to be, here's where your candy store is going to be, whatever it might be, they know, and the person's able to communicate with them before they get into any contractual understanding or anything along those lines. I think, really educating that top level individual that's actually talking with the person through this whole process. Because, at the end of the day, we don't really talk to them until they have a lease signed here in the city, and that's when we get involved. But before that, I think maybe just having that as an education piece and something that I can share with and we can share with the entirety of the brokers that I work with. And, I think that would be really helpful, just guiding us forward so they have expectations. They know our expectations anyways. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess if they're city administrator.
Thank you. I'm going to try to go back here to where it was. I was doing something. Okay. I think this was briefly touched upon in a previous committee meeting, but I wanted to make a point just so that everyone understood, because in fact, Mr. Lee and I had a conversation about this just today. When Mr. Lee was talking about ribbon cutting ceremonies, in the past, ribbon cutting ceremonies were planned, dictated by the West St. Louis County Chamber of Commerce. They determined when they were and so forth. And if we showed up as the city for our business, that's great. If sometimes we didn't get the invitation and so forth, and that's problematic. And so I asked Tom to look into that and as to why that was. Well, what we found is that when we talked to like the exercise coach, Tom talked about but we talked about exercise coach. They aren't part of it, I think, right? So when there wasn't a ribbon cutting ceremony planned, it was determined that the business chooses not to be part of the Chamber of Commerce for whatever reason. It's a personal decision. But if they're not part of the Chamber of Commerce, then the Chamber of Commerce doesn't do a ribbon cutting ceremony for them. What I had instructed Tom when he first came on board is, this is a Wildwood business. We'll do our own ribbon cutting ceremonies. We should do our own ribbon cutting ceremonies. So we've been doing that on several of these. These are Wildwood hosted or ribbon cutting ceremonies. So the president of the chamber reached out to Tom, wanted and said, "What's going on here?" When I have a conversation. So Tom came to me and said, "How should I handle that?" So I gave him some instructions and said, "Well, this is our business. And this is a business in the city of Wildwood." So I guess my point is that I want you all to understand, in case you get some pushback or you hear through the grapevine or whatever, what we're doing. That's the reason why, because we believe, Tom and I believe very strongly that these new businesses, they want to have a ribbon cutting ceremony. They should. And just because they choose not to join the chamber is not a reason to preclude them from doing that. Our scissors are bigger than the ones that they have, and they're cooler looking. They're gold and so forth. But more importantly, Tom does a great job in coordinating with our mayor, with our council members, and we've done a very good job as you have seen. So just wanted you to know the background in case that you heard, some complaints somewhere along the line.
Thank you. All right, that brings us up to under 4 information B, common site selection criteria for businesses. And I believe, Mr. Lee, this is where you take over again.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so this particular document I decided to put together based off a comment. I believe it was Councilmember Bartoni brought up. We were having a discussion in the August Economic Development Committee meeting we were saying, hey, we were thinking about what we need to attract to our city. And I believe Councilmember Bartoni brought up, hey, when we think of these things, we have to understand that certain businesses have criteria that they are looking for that are hard yes and hard no criteria. That if, say you don't have, 50,000 vehicles per day driving on that road, they're not even going to consider that site. So going forward, and I know we're kind of turning a new leaf and we're trying to invigorate our economic development programs, I wanted to make sure that I provided you all with information and this is all information brought to us by a collection of talking with brokers, talking with different individuals that place these businesses in where they're at. So the main thing is I wanted to give you guys some information on what these businesses are looking for and just a pretty good understanding of here are the basics. Whenever we are considering which businesses we might want to attract, this could be a great guide for us to look at and say, hey, do we make the cut here? So we're not wasting our resources and time whenever considering a new business. But I would love, if you'd like, I can definitely go through this briefly to kind of just give you a couple high points on what I noticed.
Sure.
Okay.
Please do.
Well, yeah. So I'll just go with this very quickly, nothing too crazy, but if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask. I did notice that, the two most important things were population density and customer demographics. Obviously, you really need to, when retailers or office use, whatever it might be, are looking to potentially find an area to relocate their business. They're looking at the trade area, and the trade area, you can really quickly summarize it as the longest drive a person will take to get to a business. So if you have, Treats Unleashed that we have, how far do people drive to actually get to that business? That would be the trade area. In that case, it usually is about 2 to 5 miles. I've seen it go from anywhere between like a max 15 minutes, max 30 minutes, depending on the location. But a lot of I saw some other data that was published from the International Council of Shopping Centers. Granted, it was a little outdated because it was based on 2016 and it was focused on major retailers. So take it with a grain of salt. But they had found that the majority preferred to have about 20,000 residents within that 2 to 5 mile range, which in most cases, if you look at the data below, that was provided by Location Commercial Real Estate on 101 Plaza Drive, which I believe is a good representation of the center of town center. It does show that, within that area, I mean, we have quite a few people. We meet that expectation, which gives us, a lot of leverage there. So we check off one of the big boxes. Just wanted to give that. Moving on to the customer demographics, we really exceed in, especially for higher end retail and higher end business services, because we have such a high median income and a very family oriented community. It is a very attractive place for businesses to look at, as long as they are, every other factor that's included in this document are fulfilled. But at the end of the day, I'm just going to quickly, state what they, kind of look at when they're trying to determine whether or not this is a good place to put their business. They're looking at the median and average household income. They're looking at the house value, the average house value or the median house value. They're looking at the number of households, the number of persons per household, the average age within within the municipality, family size, education level, and education level is critical. And economic prosperity in general. There is a lot of data backing up that individuals with a bachelor's, if you have a society with a bachelor's degree or greater, that society is going to expand their economic growth over the next couple of years. I can find the information to back that up, but I have found it quite often. And then employment statistics, and then the gender ratio. So how many men to women, women to men. That's with the customer demographics. And obviously any business that comes in, they're going to want to make sure that their offering meets those demographics. Next, we have location access. This one's pretty quick and it's a little bit self-explanatory. It's really just how accessible is this plaza, is this shopping center. For a good example here, let's take the difference between, the Deerbergs Town Center and the, let's just say the Village Plaza. Village Plaza, it's kind of tucked in the back a little bit. It's a little bit harder to see from Highway 100, whereas, and it's still included in Town Center, but it's not included within that main batch of buildings. So it just goes to show that, Deerbergs and the businesses within Deerbergs might have a little bit of a better shot because the ingress and egress capabilities of that facility in their parking lot is just a lot smoother, and it provides an easier access point along with, really great, traffic lights and signals to make sure people can get in. And also I wanted to point out in this part, and this is on me, I accidentally forgot to add what the businesses were looking for. I stated what Wildwood had. I found that with traffic counts, retail businesses and office businesses that are looking on people to come in with foot traffic, they're looking anywhere between 5,000 and 25,000 vehicles per day. And based off a 2017 traffic impact study that focused in on Wildwood's town center, we found that we had about 22,000 vehicles per day. So we're right in that Goldilocks zone. So once again, this is a really good indicator that, businesses that are looking to join us, they will be able to check off some of these boxes. That's all I had for that piece. I did want to state that was a 2017 study. So if we were interested in potentially getting an updated number there to provide to brokers or anybody else, we would have to do another study with that, but that could easily be done. It does take a lot of resources, so we'd have to determine whether or not it's worth it. On top of that, the co-tenant quality and location quality, I believe that this might be one of the most important pieces. It really focuses on those anchor businesses. Is the the property that you're looking at, is it close to a place like Schnucks? Is it close to a place like Deerberg's? Is it close to, CVS pharmacy, whatever it might be that, those main pillars that people are visiting frequently? That's going to be a really good indicator that, okay, the trade area of this location is a little bit larger because people will travel a little bit extra to get their groceries and to, get their medicine, whatever it might be. That being said as well, businesses, I really like to bring up this thing called business clusters. It's a term in economic development. And what that means is literally businesses that they feed off each other. And with that, you would have like maybe a veterinarian, pet supplies, that's so forth. On top of that, the other ones were really less important. It kind of got less important throughout the document as we saw, but I did want to touch upon just the main pieces there. The last piece that I wanted to say upon this piece was the visibility. It kind of feeds into what we were just talking about. Businesses really want to be able to be seen from a major corridor. They want to be able to have a sign that is noticeable to the public passing by. So visibility is a very, very high, to do thing. That's why you notice a McDonald's on the corner of a street, on a main street, or you notice, strip malls where they're usually based off the major streets and they have an easy ingress into the parking lot. So that's really the summary there, but happy to answer any questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Thank you. Councilmember Dodwell.
I just wanted to make a comment that this is a good document to keep for the city of Wildwood so that we know what we're talking about in this committee as we move forward. So I appreciate that. And we'll have to see what those potential providers feel we're meeting and not meeting as we go forward.
I think that's a great point. And as we do move forward, if, while, we're talking with potential developers, obviously that's all going to be, given to you all. And I'll be able to say, and we'll be able to say, City Administrator Cross and I will be able to say with confidence, hey, they were upset with XYZ. And I think you're hitting the nail on the head. Having this is kind of just a tool in the toolbox to compare and contrast. It'll really give us an understanding of where we're at and what's potentially okay to bring in here, what we can actually do so we can really prioritize our time. But thank you.
Well, and I also think the way we're currently spaced, visually, it may cause some problems for specific retail entities because town center isn't fully fixed yet. And so they may be looking at a field and go, oh, nobody's going to come to that, not realizing that there's 50,000 people that potentially will come there.
Thank you. All right. That brings us up to items ready for action. First of all, being the B&B Theater Movie Festival proposal. Committee may recall that we discussed this issue back in May, but decided to postpone action on this item until the September meeting that we're having right now. So is there any discussion on this particular proposal? Councilmember Garitano.
Yeah, I think that after the last update that we heard from the movie theater, and I believe it was, in case anyone missed it, it was at one of the coffees with the mayor. We heard that there was very positive news coming out of the movie theater. And so they were looking at potentially one of their stronger quarters. And so their focus right now is on some renovation work, which I don't know if that's started yet or will be soon, but based on those comments, I think right now, I don't see a pressing need to move forward with this at this time. It's a great idea. It's just that I think they've got too much focus in other spaces, plus they're doing well.
So would you like to make a motion? Oh, City Administrator Cross.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to reinforce what Mr. Garitano just said in that I had a meeting today with Mr. Cohn, the owner of the theater, and he is doing very well. Fourth quarter is in fact going to be a good quarter. There are new releases coming out. He is doing the renovations. all is good in the life of the theater at this point in time. He's moving on to doing some other great things for the city of Wildwood here. That was the main thrust of today's meeting. So, but everything that Mr. Garitano just said is true, reinforced through a conversation with him today.
Thank you. So I'll go back to Councilmember Garitano. Would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, I think just a motion to postpone indefinitely, and if we want to come back at some point in the future, it'd probably be best after they get all their renovations done, and if that's something they're interested in. And then the other thing too that we didn't mention is their biggest issue right now is just not having enough help. So I don't think that would even be possible. He had said that he had a hard time, as most businesses are, finding staff. So that would be my motion right now, postpone indefinitely.
Okay, so we have a motion. Councilmember Hopper.
Apologies, I don't know if I got in before the motion, but I was just a piece to that is just for discussion's sake, I think it's a little more productive to not have it labeled as the B&B Movie Theater Movie Festival, because it's really not going to be theirs or hosted by them or anything like that. I think the idea is originally to have it kind of hosted by the city. So it would really be the City of Wildwood Movie Festival that we could include B&B Movie Theater and get them involved in if they wanted to. But I think the idea is that it would expand past just the movie theater. And I just would say that if we're going to postpone this, that we also just sort of change the verbiage on that item to being just, movie festival proposal or City of Wildwood Movie Festival proposal, because I don't think calling it the B&B Theater proposal is an accurate representation of what this is.
Okay, very good point. Thank you. So we do have the motion out there. Is there a second? Councilmember Dodwell. Councilmember Dodwell seconds the motion. So all in favor of the motion to delay indefinitely, please indicate so by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. So that brings us up to the next item, discussion of the Live, Work, Play marketing campaign that Mr. Lee has been working on. So Mr. Lee, you are up again this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So since our last meeting, I remember that we were discussing potentially creating, and I think this marketing campaign, it will be very beneficial to get the results of the resident survey before making any definite actions or approving anything and such. But I wanted to explore this because I know we discussed having a live, work, play marketing campaign. It was my specialty back at my previous position. So I wanted to make sure that I did due diligence and looked into exactly what this would look like and really operationalize just the conversation we had. I have discussed this potential program with two different firms, one being my previous firm to get a good idea because I had good connections there and I know how they run the business. So I felt comfortable just at least throwing some spitballs at them and see what they said. And then I also talked with another firm as well to kind of compare and contrast. But obviously, if this were to move forward in any case or capacity, we would most likely put out a large bid program where we could get multiple bids. But I wanted to get an idea, and this is where I came. This document here is what I was provided with, and it is in line with what I was thinking too. But going into those conversations, I can briefly touch upon this just to give you guys a very high level oversight of what this marketing campaign based off of our previous conversation would entail. Really quickly, if you don't mind, in these types of campaigns, and this is what I used to do for a living, is running these types of campaigns of branding cities, branding politicians, anything it might be. But mostly with city governments was one of the main things that I worked on. And, I have found that the most effective piece would be 1 to 3 months for a time frame for this to be running. You don't want to, unless it's extremely successful and you keep seeing repeated success, most of the time you kind of want to, focus in on 1 to 3 months. I personally think 3 months is great. 2 is great too, but 1, it doesn't give you enough time to really learn more about your audience. And I'll jump into that in a second here with one of the targeting tactics. It doesn't give you enough time to build a large enough lookalike audience, which is stated. I give a brief a brief description here in the document, but what it is on the landing page that an ad would, if you click on an ad, on that landing page, we would place a pixel. That pixel would collect data on anybody that would visit that ad. So in that case, what it's collecting is demographic data, keyword search data. So what this person's looking up on the internet. It's very integral to, any kind of campaign that you're trying to increase conversion, which the conversion would be on the landing page, which, sorry, I'm kind of skipping around here, would be a page that was created on the website, our current website, that would have provide an area to provide your contact information so I could get in touch with the individual. And then on top of that, it would also have our site selection piece right there as well. So it'd be a little bit of a combo. We'd have to kind of reconfigure the landing page, but in the site selection pages we currently have, but I think that could be easily done on my end and our end in general. But to go over more, so the actual highlights here, the budgetary impact, and this is pretty common, and this is very realistic, would be somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 to run digital and run print ads within West News Magazine. I know that's a very popular, a popular outlet here in the city of Wildwood, but also in St. Louis County in general. So to do that, I mean, this is a pretty common, budget. This is something that I would personally recommend. And if I was in my old position and, it was confirmed to me by multiple individuals, and that would be spread out over the course of the entirety. So either we choose 1, 2, or 3 months, whatever it might be. If you want to choose 4, whatever it could be, this is the total duration of it. I mean, the total budget of it. I wanted to go over quickly the ad placements, and I would love to answer any questions here on what these mean. What a programmatic standard display ad is, that is your basic run-of-the-mill ad that you're seeing on every website, that you visit. It's more so, it's when you're going on Google and you are clicking on, a news article or something like that, it's going to be that ad that's on the right-hand side, left-hand side. Whereas like a LinkedIn sponsored content ad, that is actually going to be within the feed of a LinkedIn targeted audience member, and they'll be scrolling down, they'll see all the comments, but then they'll have a sponsored ad, which would be designed by us, and it would give our message out. Obviously that would be needed to be discussed as well. They do very well. I did provide some key click-through benchmarks because the conversion rates are a little bit hard to tell at first. You can usually get a better idea of it after 1 or 2 weeks of a campaign. But in this case, the LinkedIn sponsored content ads, they provide the best avenue for what we're trying to accomplish. I remember that we were discussing that we need to target residents that live in Wildwood, but also own a business, are decision makers, or are C-level executives at businesses outside of Wildwood, especially, that small to mid-sized business range, and potentially remind them, hey, how great of a community we do have. Let's bring that back here. So that's the main thing, is when you would go within LinkedIn, you can target based off geography, and you can also target based off of the job title. And that is a really big piece, because the job title part really explains itself as in who we're trying to find. We'll be looking at principals, we'll be looking at not like school principals, but like principals of companies. We'll be looking at owners, we'll be looking at, CEOs, executives, all of that, so we can really make an impact. So that's why, at the one point here, I did say that LinkedIn would be the largest part of this campaign, along with Facebook in feed ads as well, because Facebook what Facebook ads do, they kind of, calm down the user. They're always subjected to ads left and right. When they see it on Facebook, it's a little bit more of a warm entrance, and Facebook actually does happen to see pretty much the highest click-through rates amongst social media throughout the industry. So you want to include a piece of that, but LinkedIn has the targeting capabilities we were really looking for. So that's why I wanted to separate those two pieces. But then obviously as well, the West News Magazine print ads, that would be something we could consider. But the one thing I wanted to bring up is that with digital marketing, you can really measure the results, because the individual clicks on the ad, and then we'll know that data with the click-through rate. So how many people are clicking on the ad based off the impressions served, but then also we'll have conversion data based off of how many people actually put their information in to be contacted by, us, the city. So that's a main piece that I like to, and maybe it's a bias from being such a digital marketing, guy, but with print ads, it would be a little bit harder because we wouldn't have any way to measure the impact. If someone saw that ad and then they somehow made it to our website and signed up, we would think it was just organically coming in. There's no way to show deliverables when it comes to print ads, which I'm completely, I think that they could be a, important part of branding, but I did just want to bring up the fact that sometimes it is hard to measure the effectiveness of those kind of ads. Lastly, just wanted to quickly go over, keyword search targeting, just because I provided a very large list. I wanted to ask the council members if there's any keyword here, and how keyword search targeting works is that based off results in Google. So say someone types in building for lease, for example, that person would be targeted as long as they're in the St. Louis area and they happen to be a Wildwood resident. So that would be explaining what the keyword search targeting is. But the main piece to take off of this is if any of these keyword examples that I provided don't sound up to snuff and you'd like to maybe add some or remove some, I would be more than happy to add those and remove them. That's the main piece there. And then lastly, just wanted to mention a couple things, one or two more things with the creative build out. So most digital marketing firms that we work with, they do provide creative services for free as part of their management fee. I know with my previous company, they do provide them as free as service. So they would actually build them out. We would give them an understanding of what we want it to look like. And I think that could be a very collaborative process. And then they would build it out, show us proofs, and then send them on off after we've approved them. And then lastly, that goes the same with the other marketing company that I discussed. They also said that the creative services are included. I did want to bring up, if you council members are interested in creating a video for a campaign like this, I just wanted to bring up the monetary cost associated with that, because you can't just post. I mean, you don't get very good results if you post something that was filmed with a cell phone. So it's really important to, really get your due diligence done whenever you're providing good video content, and that takes getting somebody that actually does filming professionally. And in that case, it can cost anywhere between $1,000 to $5,000 for a 30-second, 1-minute ad, which in this case with social media ads and also just ads in general, you're going to be wanting to have a 15-second to 30-second ad. So just to let you know, that could be making the cost a little bit, the cost benefit analysis could get off. Lastly, I did mention the landing page. We will have to reform it, but we'll make sure to place a pixel so we can collect the data on who does convert after being exposed to the ad, so we can actually measure it. I think that's very important to hold not just ourselves, but hold the vendors that we work with accountable for the work they do, and we'll make sure to keep an eye on that too. Lastly, I just wanted to mention quickly the benchmarks. So these are pretty standard. But you'll notice that Facebook in-feed ads have a 0.89% click-through rate on average, which is much higher than both the others that I provided. Standard display is that programmatic ad that you see everywhere, and then the LinkedIn sponsored content is at 0.44%. I just wanted to refer to this because this is what the click-through rate average is. Now we have to look at, okay, from those people that clicked, say there's a million people that we served an impression to. That means if we're looking at Facebook, 0.89% of those individuals are going to click on that. So it would be about 89,000 individuals that would click. But we have a smaller market here, and it's such a small target audience that this budget can really carry us. What I provided here is a potential budgetary impact. With the target being so small, this could really saturate a very, very important audience because we won't have the biggest pool. It could be, I haven't identified the exact number, but it is much smaller than a lot of the campaigns I've run in the past. But that's the gist of it. And I just wanted to give you guys an overview. More than happy to answer any questions you all might have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So there's a lot of good information there. Thank you for your efforts pulling all that information together. Are there any questions for Mr. Lee at this point in time? Councilmember Garitano.
Yeah, thank you. I was reviewing this and I had a couple of questions, but you already answered it because I was trying to find what was the intended benefit of this. Like everything I read was great, and maybe it's kind of missing in there in a more obvious way now that you've talked about it, and I could see the keywords that it's intended for. And that was I picked up on the demographic. I just was trying to figure out the intended benefit. And I think that would still be a good addition to this. Like, what is the benefit we're trying to accomplish, right? Is it that we're trying to just raise awareness, or if we're trying to see an actual change in new businesses coming in? And that really segues into my second question. How do we measure so that we know this was a success, that the 5,000 to 10,000, I believe, was well worth spent? Like, so are we trying to shoot for a number, like as far as businesses go, or are we just kind of measuring based on clicks? And that's the kind of information, the questions that I have.
That makes perfect sense, and it's a great question to ask. And you really hit the nail on the head at the beginning of that of your speech. There is that. Is it awareness, or are we really tracking conversions? And we discussed in the last meeting when we kind of nailed down 3 specific goals that we are trying to attract office users to this to our city. And then we also are looking to attract family-friendly businesses to the city as well. So both of those things, and obviously if retail is interested, we're going to hear them out. But I think it's important in these kind of cases, if you're spending, city dollars, that we have some kind of goals and benchmarks placed for how many business does this actually bring in a business. I think that's what we should be focusing on. And, I had a great conversation with the marketing firm that I didn't have any previous relationship with about, they worked with the city of O'Fallon, Illinois, and they went through this whole process of building out. They started out with more of the brand awareness and just kind of building out an understanding of what this will look like, and just, giving out those general awareness ads, but then they slowly creeped in to bring your business here. And it kind of evolved over time. And there's a way to do that. It's called sequential messaging. But that also costs a lot more money because it's going to be running longer. And it's also going to, it's great because it does build a foundation, but that's a question we'll have to discuss is, do we want to, I don't think we want to rush this, but we also don't want to have a long drawn out process where we go through 80 different stages. But a goal of this would be to bring in, potentially 5 to 10 businesses if we put this down and have them, working here and they having their offices either changed here or they were, somewhere else and they are a Wildwood resident or even not a Wildwood resident, but we got from the forms that would be filled out 5 to 10 businesses that come in and actually work with the city. That would be, in my mind, a really successful goal. If we got 10, that would be great based off my experience.
Okay. And just quick follow-up, just to add my comment there. I think you're great there. And you made me realize too, this may also have an unintended benefits, there may be, or actually indirect benefits, right? It may be that it just creates enough positive messaging that maybe it's that extra push for a business to come to Wildwood. So yeah, anyway, you can get that feedback. I think this is helpful for us in the future to know whether this is a strategy we can use for other types of events, or maybe, we find out it's maybe not as productive. But that's all I would ask for, is that we at least, the more we do things here, it's like, I want to do things more that we know what we're trying to accomplish and how do we know we did it.
Yeah, that's perfect.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Bartoni, your hand is up.
Thank you. And I would hope that our goal would be, and a successful result would be, more businesses in the community and town center. My question for Mr. Lee is, do you plan on including this marketing campaign in the upcoming budget process?
Thank you, Councilmember Bartoni. Yes, I have included this as a line item within the budget for the Economic Development Department, well, the Administration Department, which will be under review in October.
Councilmember Dodwell.
I know I'm a pain to you guys because I am somewhat more passionate about some of this stuff than a lot of other folks, but I just want to see the city succeed. And I think if we can take as our goal for this kind of environment, that we want to make the Wildwood residents aware of what's available in Wildwood. We want to make the metro area aware of what's in Wildwood, and we want to make the nation know what's available in Wildwood, if at all possible. As you were talking along, I came up with just a silly tagline, and this is something we can play on later, but I just wrote down, I'm living it. I work in Wildwood, I play in Wildwood, and I get to live in Wildwood. All of those things. And I'm happy about that. I'm a happy person because I get to do all of those things here in Wildwood. And so we need to figure out how we can message that with some additional assistance. Previously, we had a very good marketing firm here working within the city. And unfortunately, members on this committee at the time were very negative to the point of being belligerent with individuals that were hired to do marketing. And so they eventually left because the committee was not handling themselves professionally. Not everyone on the committee, but certain individuals. And so I think if we could somehow come up with what is it about Wildwood that all of us are glad we're here for, and let's advertise the heck out of that so that we can get more businesses to come here. And you can take the work, play, live in Wildwood sections and talk about, we're looking for small to medium-sized businesses. We're looking for places where kids can play. We're looking for this, we're looking for that. And that kind of advertisement can be done just through our economic development manager here, promoting that across the advertising field. So I would just like to have some discussions on how we can move towards coming up with that kind of a marketing plan. I don't want to spend, hundreds of thousands of dollars. We don't have it. But I think if we could brainstorm a little bit and perhaps see if we could find a firm that would be willing to take some baby steps with us, I think that would be helpful.
So I wonder if it's appropriate to say that at this point in the discussion, per Councilmember Dodwell's questions and ideas, that we'll probably be able to sort of, I guess, clarify some of these things once we get the residents survey back. Then we'll be
Yes,
in a
that's
better position to start considering what kind of a marketing program we would like.
Honestly, I think that's excellent. Yes, I believe that is the best way to go about it. I've been, we've been looking at the results so far, and we've been getting great responses. I mean, our residents are just such great people, and they're so involved and so active in our community. And we're very lucky to get the input we are getting. And I cannot wait with all of you to really dive deep into the statistics and the data that's being provided, because once we have that full picture, I think we can create a very concrete, step-by-step level on what the city wants in a marketing program, and then be able to discuss that with vendors in the bidding process of saying, hey, this is what we want to achieve based off what our residents want. And at that point, I think that's the best way to create any marketing campaign, is really to get feedback before, instead of waiting and then hitting the mark too late or not hitting the mark at all. But thank you. I really appreciate that comment.
All right, thank you. That brings us to discussion of family-friendly businesses. And Mr. Lee, I think you and I talked about this the other day. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you were looking for some examples of family-friendly businesses, or what that might be.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct in a sense. What this is, and I know it's pretty basic, and it's just laying out some examples. And but we talked about family-friendly businesses and how we want to attract them. And I wanted to hear from the committee. what's realistic and what's not for this city, and really getting the feedback. You all talk with your residents, on a consistent basis. You get the temperature. What kind of businesses in the family friendly space, stuff families can all do together, should we be looking at? I want to make sure, and this is what I do, in all situations, is how can I most effectively use my time? And I want to make sure that, a business that I am, reaching out to or trying to attract to the city, that, there is a realistic possibility that we could find them somewhere here. So the main thing here is just to provide a very general list. I don't have any preference towards any of these certain items. I just wanted to hear feedback from all of you to get a better understanding of where you want me to pinpoint, where you really want me to work. And even if it's not included on here, I would love to include it after you guys let me know.
All right, thank you. Councilmember McCutcheon, if you don't mind, I think you had suggested that family-friendly businesses was something that Wildwood should pursue. So do you have any thoughts on specific types of businesses that might fall into this category?
Well, hopefully I won't get knocked off the internet again. I apologize for disappearing a while ago. I
all right.
thought the family style restaurants was a really good example, and maybe something that we could really consider. I also thought some of the other businesses that were listed here, and I can't get to my list, I apologize, but some things that families can all, do together. I thought the batting cages was a really good idea. And that's about all I can see on my list. I apologize. But I thought a lot of those suggestions that you put on the list were a really good idea. And maybe we need to, when this survey comes back, maybe delve into it a little bit more, or, I'm sorry, I'm a little flustered because of navigation and internet. So that's my only comments.
All right, no, not a problem. Internet challenges can be frustrating from time to time. So I think this is a topic that we don't necessarily need to resolve tonight. And obviously, I think Mr. Lee would appreciate any input coming in from any of the council members, whether that input comes in tonight or whether it comes in within the next few days. Councilmember Dodwell.
I just had two companies that I had indicated or identified, excuse me, not indicated. Kokomo Joe's is a family fun center. There's only one in the area. It's out in O'Fallon, Missouri, which is 20 miles from here. And then there's another place called KJ Fun. It's in St. Peter's. That's kind of similar in line. Just some place to go with the kids, and they have adult times. They have kids only times. Those kinds of things that could be very family friendly, especially in our town center area where we have a more dense population. That would be a good things. I would ask if we could have maybe one more clothing boutique, or somehow come up with some stores that would attract daytime
walk-in traffic.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank
Just
you.
daytime activity.
I definitely agree with you on that, Councilmember Dodwell. And I did want to point out, there was one that, my wife and I, we actually visited not too long ago, and I think it kind of encapsulates a couple of these items. It's called Main Event. It's over in Chesterfield, and
Yeah.
it is a little bit close, but I mean, it has in that area, it has kind of a really good vibe where it's, it's got the arcade and very advanced arcade, like the VR headsets and everything. So great for the kids. It has a little area that you can run up and, you're tied to the ceiling, and it's got the, I believe it has a bowling alley as well, but then it also has a bar and a restaurant in there too. So it serves multiple purposes, and it could be, one development versus if you want a laser, and it has laser tag too. If you want a laser tag arena, mini golf, you want all that, and you have to build out 5 different places. This kind of concept, I think, encapsulates all that. And it's similar to Kokomo Joe's, if in a sense, that it brings the family together, but also provides, avenues for adults to have fun too. So it can continuously bring that traffic. But the main thing that, with something like this and something, these pieces, this will help draw, people outside of our community too here. And that could be something that, you know, someone comes out and they visit, you know, whatever it might be that has these facilities, and then they stop by and they get, you know, they get some food from Botanica, they stop by, they get some food from the Subway, or that's right there, you know, or from Micro Meadows, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But I think that, you know, having some kind of, you know, spotlight, and maybe something, you know, maybe we have to really get creative and find something that's not in Ellisville, it's not in Baldwin, it's not, it's one of those things that would be rare to us, just like Hidden Valley. I think
That's-
finding Hidden Valley's sister or brother would be a really great idea to, you know, drive that traffic, especially in the daytime too, if someone has the day off with the kids.
That's why I went out beyond Chesterfield, Eureka area and said, okay, what's across the river that we could identify that would make it a little bit more competitive for us if we had something from one of those particular vendors. So.
No, I really appreciate that feedback. Thank you. Thank you,
All
Mr.
right.
Chair. And thank you, Councilmember Dowell.
Thank you. Councilmember Garitano.
Yeah, I love I love the idea of what you have over here, and it reminded me because we had a more I mean, we have really good restaurants, but we had a restaurant that was more of the family kind of casual, was Indigo Joe's here in Wildwood, right here on Main Street, and you know that had a good you know following there. From the times I went there, it was always full. So that is something that I hear, and I'm sure many of you hear, that we need to have more of just the place that you can go out on a Sunday afternoon without really having to get all fancied up, you know, something that you can take the kids and enjoy. So I like that. And I think this is good. And there's a lot of potential because I see it in our neighboring cities. You know, they're developing these ecosystems of these businesses. And so, you know, you have similar businesses that are opening up next to each other and they complement each other. In fact, here in Wildwood, we have an existing ice cream place and then a second one open up. And I had received a comment from someone that said that they were concerned that a second one could hurt the other one. But, you know, you just have to look at economics and see what's going on in Ellisville, and you'll have multiple chicken fast food restaurants right next to each other, or multiple coffee shops that are opening up, or multiple gas stations and so forth. And what they do is they actually bring more people in to the area. And we know that works because we have that even here, little ecosystem, because between the porch and Three French Hens, they bring both people in that people then shop at both of those places. In fact, if there were more of those two around that area, it would probably complement that ecosystem there. And I'm Jeans as well, as was there at one time. So in fact, you know, competition and economics, they all work together. It helps each other if you build that in there. You know, so I think you're onto something. Let's see if we can do something here.
So I guess an analogy might be the auto dealers that tend to open next to each other.
Very good.
All right, very good. Any other questions or comments on the family-friendly businesses? That brings us to the potential city to business newsletter. I think we had a brief discussion on this at the last meeting. So Mr. Lee, did you have any additional comments that you wanted to make on this topic?
There was no additional comments that I have really, but I do remember from the previous, the previous conversation we had, there are a couple issues with business to, a city to business e-newsletter or just newsletter in general. One being they would have to subscribe in, which, obviously I would be able to give them when I'm doing my business visitations, giving them the option. But, you can't just send it out to, emails that, we find on the internet or whatever it might be. On top of that, we already do have a e-newsletter that does go out and it has a popular following already. And, it's been very easy what could be a potential solution to this is just maybe adding in, a little bit of, if there's good news within the economic development space, just simply highlighting economic development within that actual newsletter we have. So the residents can also learn more. But I've always encouraged every business that I've met with since I've been here to sign up for our newsletter because, they never know if something's going to affect them or if it's going to affect their family, whatever it might be. So I do think that our newsletter we have now, just maybe pointing out economic development would be a great compromise here versus having, a specific,
straight to business, because it would just take a long time to grow. And, say we're writing these out, weekly or biweekly or monthly, and we do that for 3 or 4 months and we only have 4 subscribers. At that point, is that really, is that worth the time? Whereas we could be focusing on, other items. But that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So were you looking for the committee to provide some direction on what we should be doing, whether or not we should pursue a potential city to business newsletter?
Yes, that is what I'm looking for.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on this topic or any input that anyone wants to offer? Okay, so City Administrator Cross, what should be the next action of this committee pertaining to a city to business newsletter? I'm not seeing an overwhelming support for such a newsletter.
And that's the key, Chair. Mr. Lee and I have talked about it. That was an idea that was floated, at a previous administration, if you will, of this committee. But we have other things in place, as Mr. Lee alluded to. And as you know, I changed the title. And so the title of Mr. Lee is Economic Development / Communications Manager. It is my intent to bring all the communications under one umbrella, which would be Mr. Lee. That would include the weekly newsletter, which won't be a weekly newsletter either. It's a lot of redundancy, but I think we can improve that newsletter. I think we can target audience a little bit better, focus a little bit better, and something like this that would include businesses would be a better way to go. So I think what Mr. Lee might be looking for is perhaps a motion to kind of table it as is and let us work on evolving it into something that has more benefit for the city. So we would be looking for a motion to move in that direction.
All
Thank you,
right.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, City Administrator Cross. So Councilmember Dodwell.
I'll make a motion that we look towards how we incorporate economic development in our weekly newsletter and our Wildwood Gazette in a more effective manner.
Thank you. Do we have a second for that motion? Councilmember Bartoni. Thank you. Second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. That brings us to not ready for action items, update to the Economic Development Guide. Mr. Lee.
Yep, still working on this piece, and this has a lot to tie in with the review of stakeholder feedback procedures. So it's kind of tied together. As I'm meeting with more businesses and as the city's meeting with more businesses, I'm getting a better understanding of what questions are, really piquing their interest based off, former documents that we have, but also questions that I've wrote up. So I am really, by the next meeting, we will have the review of stakeholder feedback procedures. I want to have that on the ready for action piece so we can discuss it further. That'll include the stakeholder survey that we had, that went into the Economic Development Guide update, which we had about 15 businesses. My predecessor got through half of them, and that was back in 2021, and things have changed since then. A lot has changed. And I believe that, at this point, I think that those interviews would need to be redone. But the city administrator, Mr. Cross, and I, we've really been discussing this, in depth, and we've really kind of, we broadened the discussion even more. We instead of just thinking of like a review of the stakeholder questionnaire, we were thinking, maybe we should look at reviewing how we get feedback from businesses in the first place. And this can include a whole host of different items that I've been discussing with city administrator. And, at the end of the day, I think that we have a couple of great ideas that might be able to either, supplement the questionnaire with, revisions that we add, or, actually replace it all together with a better system. So at this point, those two items, once we have an update on how to get that feedback and we get that feedback, I'll be able to give you a definite time on the update to the Economic Development Guide as well.
Thank you. That brings us to Wildwood Business Association update.
Yes. So with the Wildwood Business Association update, after our meeting last in August,
we all had discussed that we would really like to get some insight on the current status of the WBA. And I really do too. I want to have, her and Jenny Goski and potentially another representative come in. I had requested that she be here for the meeting tonight, just to provide a status update and, also answer any questions everyone might have. That being said, she was busy today specifically, and so was her colleague that could have represented the organization. That being said, she did say that she will be able to come to the meeting in October. So we will actually get an update from the Wildwood Business Association at that point. I will confirm with that tomorrow to make sure that she will be able to be in attendance. Because I do think it's very important. I mean, the Wildwood Business Association, we are very, the Economic Development Wildwood Business Association, we should have very similar goals. They should really want to, make sure that, our economic development policies and programs move forward, and we want to help them move forward and help them facilitate all their procedures. So at the end of the day, I think it's going to be really important to potentially establish a system where we get updates on a continuous basis, not necessarily continuous, but every now and then having them, a representative come in and give current status updates, because there are a lot of happenings going on in the WBA, but some of them go unnoticed in some cases just because, some emails and stuff fall by the wayside, and, maybe someone's not getting them or something along those lines. But at this point, next meeting, she'll be here.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
That brings us to a review of stakeholder feedback procedures. Mr. Lee.
Yes, this is what's the item that I just talked about in
Okay.
conjunction with the economic development guide. That being said, this will definitely be on the ready for action piece, towards the next meeting. And like I said, it's going to be a review of more than just the stakeholder questionnaire. It's going to be a review of a couple different items, and the city administrator and we have a couple conversations that we're going to be having over the next couple weeks to discuss what exactly that entails. And you all will have the materials available for all the ideas that we come up with to get that feedback and potentially replace or add to the current questionnaire.
All right. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that you didn't miss an opportunity to provide some additional information.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There will be additional information, and I have a couple things in my mind that I want to talk about, but just not yet.
All right. Perfect. Thank you very much. That brings us to next meeting date, which is scheduled for October 11th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. So please note that time change to 5:30 p.m. I think I may have mentioned earlier in the meeting tonight that the next scheduled meeting was late in October, but it's actually October 11th. So, City Administrator Cross.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And the reason why it is moved up is because October is the month that we each of the committees will be reviewing the respective budgets. So that will be at the October the 11th. We as a committee will review the budget for the Economic Development Committee. It's not a large budget, not many line items, so it won't take very long. The biggest item is that we did put in $10,000 for the marketing campaign for the Live, Work, Play. So that is in the 2023 draft budget as it exists right now. And the other reason that we're starting at 5:30 is that we also have admin PW meeting on that same night at 6:30. So that'll be we'll need to get through the budget. And then anything else that's on the agenda, but that's the reason why it's starting early, because we've got to move to the next month. It's going to be a busy month for Dawn and I in October.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any final questions, comments, or concerns that anyone wants to raise? Councilmember Dodwell.
Mr. Cross, I just wanted to double check with you. That being said, do we have any updated schedule that we are going to be working on as far as council meetings, additional meetings through the month of October, other than what you sent out, I think back in July or August, as far as the budget meeting schedule that you had put together?
The meeting schedule that we sent out is the meeting or the budget schedule. It identifies during the month of October those meetings, and they are somewhat front loaded. There's only one council meeting in October, and that is the second meeting. So it is the 24th as opposed to the 10th. We can't meet to the 10th because the first meeting is the 11th, and then we go from there. So other than that, the schedule hasn't changed from what Dawn and I distributed earlier. So the draft budget is complete to the extent that it is. I reviewed it last week. I met with all the department heads, made some changes. Dawn was out last week. She and I spoke this morning. She's still quite ill, but so she's made some changes. We will, and so I think the budget schedule calls for us to put it out there for council members, for the mayor and the council members to see it somewhere around the 5th of October. So I think that's like next Wednesday or something that, so we're still on track then to have that, you know, out there for you all to start see, to review and get ready for the committee meetings.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comment? Hearing Councilmember Dodwell.
I'd like to make a motion to end the meeting.
Okay, do I have a second to that motion? Mr. Bartoni, thank you. Okay, so motion to adjourn, non-debatable. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you all. And Mr. Lee, thank you very much. We had you on the hot seat quite a while tonight.
That's quite all right. It was my pleasure, Mr. Chair.
All right.